Have you noticed how one person's mood, one unexpected message, or one silent disappointment can swallow your entire peace? Why do you care too much about things you cannot control, and what does caring too much really do to you? In Buddhism, there is a haunting truth. Nothing outside you has power unless you hand it your mind. Today, we enter the art of worrying less, the path of detachment, and why you should stop caring about the storms around you. Because when you stop caring in the wrong places, you finally find peace in the right ones. Before we begin, subscribe to Buddha's Eternal Wisdom, where every video opens a doorway to calm clarity through Buddhist teachings. Stay until the end. A powerful bonus lesson awaits that most people never discover. 1. Release the grip before it breaks you. The hand that clings is the first to bleed, and yet, so often you hold on to people, to expectations, to outcomes that refuse to bend. You tighten your grip because you believe control will give you safety. But let me ask you gently, has gripping ever softened your suffering, or has it only deepened it? Close your fist for a moment. Feel the tension, the heaviness, the strain. Now slowly open it. Notice the quiet relief. This is the first lesson. Release the grip before it breaks you. In Buddhist wisdom, attachment is described not as love, but as fear disguised as love. It is the fear of losing someone, the fear of being misunderstood, the fear that without control, everything will fall apart. But fear is a poor companion on the path to peace. Imagine holding sand in your hand. If you squeeze it tightly, it slips through your fingers. If you loosen your palm, it stays. This is how life works. This is how people work. And this is why clinging creates more suffering than letting go. In your modern world, this suffering appears in subtle ways. You refresh messages, waiting for replies that don't come. You replay conversations, hoping different words might fix what was never yours to fix. You carry emotional weight for people who do not see how heavy it has become. The more you try to control, the more your peace dissolves. And the strange irony is this: the moment you loosen your hold, life becomes lighter, clearer, more honest. So how do you begin? Start by noticing what is slipping even as you cling. Ask yourself, what am I gripping that is already moving away from me? Then breathe into the fear of its loss. What absence am I fearing more than my own inner stillness? Let the answer surface without judgment. Next, imagine approaching your day with open hands rather than closed fists. What would open hands feel like in your life today? Calmer conversations, softer expectations, or a mind that no longer bargains with the uncontrollable? There is a quiet truth within Buddhist teachings. When you stop trying to force outcomes, you stop giving the world permission to hurt you. Detachment is not abandonment. It is the highest form of self-respect. It is choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and inner freedom over emotional captivity. And here is the mystery to reflect on. If you stopped gripping life so tightly, what beautiful things might finally have space to enter? The moment you release what isn't yours to carry, you begin to reclaim the power that was always yours. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, "I choose inner freedom." 2. Stop paying emotional rent to others. You suffer when the visitor becomes the owner. Yet this is what happens when someone who hurt you, ignored you, or walked away still lives inside your thoughts. Their words echo in your quiet moments. Their actions shape your reactions. Their absence becomes a shadow that follows you through your day. But pause just for a breath and ask yourself gently, how do people occupy your mind long after they've left your life? In Buddhist wisdom, the mind is described as a sacred space, a temple meant for clarity, compassion, and truth. But too often you allow uninvited guests to wander inside, rearranging your peace, dictating your emotions, and building entire stories from their silence. Your mind becomes a place where others decide the rituals, while you stand outside hoping they will treat it with respect. This is why detachment matters. You must stop paying emotional rent to people who do not honor the space they occupy. Think of your mind as a sanctuary at dawn, quiet, soft, filled with the possibility of peace. Now imagine locking its doors, placing the key gently in your pocket, and finally deciding who is allowed to enter. When you do this, something powerful happens. You realize most of the noise in your head never belonged to you. It was borrowed from memories, assumptions, and old wounds. It was carried from places you've already walked away from. In everyday life, this emotional rent shows up in small but painful ways. You overthink a message. You replay a conversation that ended months ago. You interpret someone's mood as your responsibility. You let someone's absence dictate your worth. All of this is you paying rent, time, energy, peace, to people who no longer deserve a seat at your inner table. So reflect deeply. Who holds the keys to my peace right now? What boundary have I been too afraid to create? And most importantly, what would my life look like if I stopped renting out my mind to worry, to memory, to people who cannot meet me where I am? There is a quiet, liberating truth. When you reclaim your inner space, the world outside loses its power to disturb you. You become the keeper of your peace, the guardian of your thoughts, the owner of your emotional home. And here is the mystery worth holding close. If your mind became fully yours again, what new strength, clarity, and freedom would finally have room to grow? 3. Care less, see more clearly. Clarity arrives when emotions stop shaking the glass, yet so often you care so intensely about people, outcomes, and situations you cannot control that your inner world trembles like a disturbed lake. You believe that caring more will solve the problem, but instead it clouds your judgment, distorts your perception, and blurs the truth that was always right in front of you. Let me ask you softly, why does caring too much cloud judgment instead of improving your life? In Buddhist understanding, the mind is like a still lake. When it is calm, you can see the bottom, the truth, the intention, the reality. But when emotion stirs the water, everything becomes murky. You project fears, stories, and assumptions into the noise. You react not to reality, but to the storm you created inside. Caring is not the problem. Clinging to what you cannot shape is. The path to peace begins when you learn to care with openness instead of attachment, compassion instead of control. Imagine taking a slow breath. Picture muddy water swirling before you. Then, with each exhale, imagine it settling, darker particles sinking, the surface clearing, light returning. This is what happens inside you when you release the urgency to fix everything and simply allow things to be. Stillness becomes insight. Distance becomes clarity. Acceptance becomes strength. In daily life, the noise is often subtle. You analyze someone's tone, wondering if you did something wrong. You overextend yourself, believing effort will guarantee approval. You try to rescue situations that were never your responsibility. You confuse emotional intensity with emotional wisdom. And slowly, without realizing it, your inner lake becomes cloudy, too loud to hear truth, too restless to feel peace. So pause and ask yourself carefully, where is my mind too loud to hear truth? What am I trying to fix that doesn't actually need fixing? And what clarity appears when I let the water settle instead of stirring it with worry? When you care a little less, not in coldness but in presence, you begin to see people as they truly are, not as your emotions paint them. You begin to navigate challenges with calm rather than chaos. You begin to choose responses instead of reactions. This is the quiet power of detachment, seeing clearly, feeling deeply, and acting wisely. And here is the spiritual turning point. When you let the lake within you grow still, life reflects itself with honesty. What truths might you finally see when your water becomes clear again? 4. Let life flow instead of forcing it. The river moves by surrender, not strength. And yet, you spend so much of your life trying to push things upstream, people, outcomes, timing, emotions, believing that if you just try harder, you will finally feel safe. But control does not create safety, it creates exhaustion. So pause for a moment and ask yourself, why does control always drain you, even when you think it will protect you? In Buddhist wisdom, life is understood as a flowing river, ever-changing, ever-moving, beyond anyone's grip. When you try to control its direction, you fight against the very nature of existence. You push, strain, resist, and call it responsibility. But beneath the effort is fear, fear of uncertainty, fear of being hurt, fear of outcomes you cannot predict. Detachment does not mean indifference. It means trusting the river more than your fear. When you stop forcing and start flowing, life becomes lighter, smoother, and surprisingly aligned. Close your eyes and imagine yourself floating gently on a calm river. Feel how the current moves beneath you, without demanding anything in return. You do not need to swim against it. You do not need to push the water. You simply let the current carry you. This is the experience of surrender, not giving up, but giving way, allowing life to unfold without gripping its edges. In your daily life, the struggle appears in subtle forms. You try to shape someone's behavior, hoping they will finally see your worth. You attempt to fix situations that have already spoken their truth. You resist endings, cling to beginnings, and carry battles that are not yours to fight. And every time you push against what is natural, your spirit grows tired. The exhaustion you feel is not from life. It is from resistance. Reflect carefully. What am I trying too hard to shape? What resistance is draining my energy, leaving me restless and overwhelmed? And what flow could I follow instead of forcing? What path, what truth, what acceptance waits for me if I stop fighting the current? There is a quiet turning point on the path of detachment. The moment you stop pushing the river, it carries you exactly where you need to be. When you trust the flow, clarity emerges. When you release resistance, peace appears. And when you surrender your need for control, life reveals its natural wisdom. So hold this truth in your heart. If you let life move freely, without force, what new harmony might begin to carry you forward? We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, I choose inner freedom. 5. Detachment is returning to yourself. When you return to yourself, nothing outside can shake you loose. And yet, so often, you drift away from your own center, chasing approval, absorbing emotions that aren't yours, bending your boundaries to keep peace that never stays. You call it caring, loyalty, love. But quietly, a question rises. If detachment isn't coldness, then what is it really protecting? It protects the home inside you, the place you forget when the world grows loud. In Buddhist wisdom, detachment is not an escape from life. It is a return to your inner temple. Imagine sitting cross-legged at the very center of a storm. The winds howl, the branches break, the world trembles. But where you sit, there is stillness, untouched, undisturbed. This is the essence of detachment, not pushing life away, but refusing to let outer chaos decide your inner weather. You become anchored, grounded, present, a mountain that does not move. Visualize this now. See yourself in a quiet temple. The doors open, winds circling around you, Voices, expectations, judgments, disappointments, but none of them entering. You sit with a spine of calm and a heart of clarity. You breathe, and the storm bows. This is what happens when you stop abandoning yourself for the sake of others who cannot meet you, cannot value you, cannot walk with you at the depth you deserve. In your daily life, losing yourself happens slowly. You say yes when your heart is whispering no. You silence your needs to hold space for someone who never returns the gesture. You carry emotional storms that are not yours to navigate. And the more you do this, the further you drift from your own inner home. The suffering does not come from others. It comes from the distance you create between yourself and your truth. So reflect gently. Where have I abandoned myself for someone else? What storm am I trying so hard to control outside instead of calming within? And what part of me needs to come home? My boundaries, my voice, my peace, my sense of worth. There is a profound turning point on the path of detachment, the moment you decide that your inner home deserves your loyalty more than anyone's approval. When you return to yourself, your peace becomes non-negotiable. Your clarity becomes sharper. Your heart becomes steadier. And here is the quiet revelation. When you stand firmly in your own center, no storm, no person, no situation can shake you loose again. 6. Pain ends when identity lets go. You hurt because you believe the story, not the moment. The suffering you carry is not always born from other people. It often comes from the identity you built around them, the role you felt forced to play, the version of yourself shaped by their expectations. This is why the pain lingers long after the person is gone. So ask yourself softly, what if the suffering you feel isn't from others at all, but from the mask you've been wearing in their presence? In Buddhist wisdom, identity is one of the deepest illusions. The mind creates roles, the one who must be strong, the one who must be chosen, the one who must not fail. But these masks grow tight over time. They restrict your breath, your truth, your peace. Pain arises not because life is unkind, but because the mask refuses to break. Detachment then becomes an act of liberation, allowing the false identity to fall away so the real self can breathe again. Visualize yourself holding a mask that you have worn for years. Feel its weight, shaped by old pain, old expectations, old stories about who you must be. Now imagine removing it slowly. Imagine the first deep breath you take without it. The air feels different. The world feels wider. This is the moment identity loosens and suffering begins to dissolve. In your daily life, identity quietly fuels pain. You react because the role you play demands it. You cling because the story you believe insists that without someone you are incomplete. You overgive because your identity says your worth comes from being needed. But beneath all these reactions is a quieter truth. You are none of these masks. They were created for survival, not for peace. So reflect deeply, who am I when I am not reacting? What story about myself must I release to return to my original clarity? And what pain disappears the moment I drop the mask? Fear, insecurity, loneliness, the pressure to prove something to someone who cannot see you. This is the turning point on the path of detachment. When identity lets go, pain loses its foundation. You stop interpreting every moment through old wounds. You stop seeing yourself through borrowed narratives. You stand in a clearer, freer space where your worth is not tied to anyone's presence, opinion, or approval. And here is the quiet revelation. When the mask falls, the suffering falls with it. What remains is your truest self, steady, peaceful, unshakable, and finally free. 7. Emotional distance creates inner mastery. Distance is not disconnection, it is a higher vantage point. Yet when life becomes chaotic, when people pull on your emotions, when problems demand reaction, you move closer, believing proximity will give you control. But the truth is far quieter. Stepping back gives you more clarity than stepping in. So pause for a moment and ask yourself gently, how does distance create more mastery than involvement? In Buddhist wisdom, emotional distance is not coldness. It is spaciousness. It is the ability to rise above the noise rather than drown inside it. Like climbing a hill, the moment you elevate yourself, even slightly, the entire battlefield of your emotions becomes visible. You stop reacting to every movement. You stop absorbing every tone, every gesture, every shift in someone else's mood. You begin to see patterns, truths, and illusions that are invisible when you stand in the middle of the crowd. Close your eyes and visualize yourself stepping back from a noisy marketplace. The shouting, the movement, the confusion. One step back and the noise softens. Another step and the shapes become clearer. Climb a little higher and suddenly you see the entire scene with unmistakable clarity. This is emotional distance. It is the shift from being overwhelmed by life to understanding it. In your daily life, being too close to the noise creates blindness. You take things personally that were never about you. You react to emotions that are not yours to carry. You try to solve problems from within the storm instead of moving to its edge. Distance gives you insight. Proximity gives you confusion. That is why stepping back is a form of inner mastery. It lets you respond with calm instead of acting from chaos. Reflect on this quietly. What noise am I too close to right now? Where in my life do I need a higher vantage point to see what is truly happening? And what becomes obvious? What truth reveals itself the moment I step back and breathe? This is the turning point of detachment. The understanding that mastery is not about controlling people or situations, but about regulating your own mind. When you step back, you create space between the trigger and your reaction. Space becomes wisdom. Wisdom becomes strength. Strength becomes peace. And here is the quiet revelation. When you rise above the battlefield of your emotions, life stops wounding you and starts teaching you. What might you finally understand when you give yourself the gift of distance? We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, I choose inner freedom. 8. Stop trying to fix what isn't yours. Not every fire requires your hands to save it. Yet you reach into flames that were never meant for you. Problems you didn't create, emotions you didn't ignite, responsibilities that were never yours to carry. You call it kindness, compassion, duty. But quietly, a deeper question waits. How many problems in your life were never your responsibility to heal? In Buddhist wisdom, suffering often arises from misalignment, taking ownership of burdens that do not belong to you. The mind becomes heavy, not because life is unbearable, but because you carry more than your share. Some fires burn brighter when you feed them, and your constant effort becomes the fuel for chaos that was never meant to be yours. Detachment then becomes an act of wisdom, recognizing what is yours to hold and what you must release so both you and the situation can breathe. Visualize yourself holding a burning torch. Feel the heat, the weight, the urgency. Now imagine placing it gently on the ground and stepping back. Nothing explodes. Nothing collapses. The world does not end. Instead, you feel your hands cool, your breath soften, your mind clear. This is the power of letting go of what isn't yours. Peace returns the moment you stop trying to save every fire. In daily life, this struggle is subtle. You take responsibility for someone's mood, believing your effort will fix their wounds. You intervene in conflicts that drain you. You compromise your boundaries to maintain harmony that benefits everyone but you. You feel guilty for stepping back, even when stepping back is the only path to clarity. What you don't realize is that some fires need time, not your hands. Some people need to face their own lessons. Some problems are meant to crumble without your involvement. Pause and reflect with honesty. Which problems did I adopt out of guilt rather than truth? What emotional burdens belong to me and what never did? And who am I trying to save? What situation am I trying to fix at the cost of my own well-being? Here lies the turning point of detachment. Understanding that letting go is not abandonment. It is alignment. It is choosing what is wise instead of what is draining. When you stop fixing what was never yours, you reclaim your energy, your clarity, and your inner steadiness. And here is the quiet revelation. Your absence from the wrong battles becomes the water that extinguishes unnecessary suffering. What peace might finally unfold when you stop carrying fires that were never yours to save? 9. The power of non-reaction. Nothing can control the one who does not react. Yet most of your pain begins the moment you do, when someone's mood pulls you in, when a situation provokes you, when a problem tempts you to fight flame with blame. But ask yourself gently, what if silence and stillness are the strongest forms of self-defense you will ever know? In Buddhist wisdom, reaction is the doorway through which suffering enters. The world loses its power the moment you stop giving it your energy. A mountain does not tremble because the wind shouts, and in the same way, your inner strength is revealed not through retaliation, but through calm presence. Non-reaction is not weakness, it is mastery. It is choosing to stay anchored when everything around you tries to shake you loose. Visualize yourself as a mountain, silent, steady, unmoved. Storms gather, winds howl, voices rise, but none of it enters you. You remain rooted in your own truth. This image is not fantasy, it is the potential of your mind when you choose stillness over impulse, awareness over instinct, clarity over chaos. In everyday life, the triggers are subtle. Someone's words sting, and you feel the old urge to defend. A problem appears, and you rush into anxiety. A person withdraws, and you react by clinging or fearing abandonment. But reaction is a habit, not your nature. When you pause, breathe, and observe before responding, you reclaim your power. The world cannot control a mind that refuses to dance with every disturbance. So reflect carefully. What triggers steal my peace again and again? How can I respond with stillness instead of fire, with observation instead of urgency? And what power appears inside me the moment I no longer react on command? This is the heart of detachment, learning that you do not need to fight every battle, answer every provocation, or carry every emotion handed to you. Silence becomes clarity, stillness becomes strength, thoughtfulness becomes protection. You begin to see the truth beneath the noise, and the noise loses its influence. There is a profound spiritual shift here. When you no longer react, you become untouchable. Circumstances may move around you, but they no longer move you. People may try to pull you into their storms, but you remain the mountain they cannot shake. And here is the quiet revelation to hold close. When you master the art of non-reaction, life stops controlling you and starts revealing itself with honesty, peace, and extraordinary freedom. 10. Your peace is the ultimate currency. What if every emotional battle you choose costs you the most expensive thing you own, your peace? This question sits quietly at the doorway of wisdom, waiting for you to notice its truth. In a world where everyone reaches for your attention, your reactions, your energy, your peace becomes the ultimate currency. Spend it wisely, because not everyone deserves the wealth of your inner calm. Spend your peace only where returns are real. Peace is a rare jewel. Careless hands will always try to steal it. Some take it through drama, some through chaos, some through their inability to carry their own burdens. Yet this jewel was never meant to be thrown into every conflict that appears before you. Imagine holding that glowing jewel close to your heart, warm, bright, delicate. Notice how instinctively you protect it. This is how you must treat your inner stillness, not with fear, but with reverence. In Buddhist wisdom, peace is not something you chase, it is something you preserve. Many people lose it by giving it away too freely, engaging in arguments that change nothing, trying to fix people who do not want healing, carrying responsibilities that were never theirs. Your peace erodes not in storms, but in small daily leaks, reacting without pause, absorbing others' emotions, rushing to resolve every issue that appears before you. But you have a choice. You can become deliberate with your energy. You can decide that your well-being is no longer open to negotiation. You can say, quietly and firmly, that your serenity cannot be traded for temporary validation or the illusion of control. The moment you do this, the world changes. Not because it becomes gentler, but because you stop giving it the power to drain you. Ask yourself with honesty, where am I spending peace carelessly? Who genuinely earns access to my emotional energy, and who simply takes? And what would my life look like if every decision, every boundary, every response began from a place of peace first? When peace becomes your priority, clarity follows. Relationships shift. Reactions soften, chaos loses its grip. You begin to live not from fear or urgency, but from centered awareness. And slowly you realize that peace is not just a feeling, it is your inner wealth, your compass, and your greatest protector. Guard it gently, guard it wisely, guard it as the treasure that shapes the quality of your entire life. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, I choose inner freedom. 11. Detach and let life come to you. Why does life move toward you the moment you stop chasing it? This is a truth most people learn only after exhaustion, after running behind people, outcomes, and answers that were never meant to be caught. In the stillness of Buddhist wisdom, there is a quiet reminder. What is meant for you moves closer when you become still. Life does not reward frantic pursuit. It responds to grounded presence. The flower does not chase the bee, yet the bee always returns. The lotus does not rush to open its petals. It blooms in its own time, and the world comes to meet it. When you chase, you push life away with the energy of scarcity and fear. But when you settle into yourself, calm, rooted, aware, you become a magnet for what aligns with your path. The right people, the right opportunities, the right experiences begin to move toward you, not because you demanded them, but because you stopped resisting the rhythm of life. Imagine yourself as a lotus resting on calm water. No struggle, no rushing, no holding on. The surface responds to your calmness, not your tension. The world around you becomes clearer, the noise softens, and what is meant to arrive gently starts moving toward you. This is the power of detachment, not withdrawal, not coldness, but the wisdom of trusting your center more than your fear. Chasing often creates distance. You chase people because you fear losing them. You chase approval because you doubt your worth. You chase outcomes because you think you are not complete without them. But every pursuit born from lack sends a quiet message. I am not enough yet. Detachment changes that message. It says, I am whole where I stand, and what matches me will come in its own time. Ask yourself, what am I chasing that should come to me naturally? How is my chasing creating distance instead of closeness? And what might come toward me if I simply pause, breathe, and let life unfold instead of forcing it? When you stop chasing, you begin noticing. When you stop grasping, you begin receiving. When you stop trying to control, you start moving with the flow that has always been guiding you. Detachment is not the end of effort. It is the start of effortless clarity, and in that clarity, life reveals what was always meant for you. Bonus lesson: the unshakable mind cannot be hurt. What changes in your life when you stop caring about approval, outcomes, and opinions? A deep stillness rises, like a monk sitting alone at dusk, untouched by the noise of the world. This is the heart of an unshakable mind. Not cold, not distant, but steady. A mind that no longer opens its doors to every passing judgment becomes a mind that can finally rest. As the old teaching says, when nothing enters without your permission, you are free. Imagine building a quiet sanctuary inside your chest, a place no criticism can reach, no chaos can unsettle, no outside voice can decide your worth. This sanctuary is not made of stone, but of awareness. With each breath you strengthen its walls, with each clear moment you steady its base. When you stop letting everything touch you, you become like a fortress with no open doors, calm, whole, complete. Many of the wounds you carry were not created by the events themselves, but by the stories others told you about who you should be. You gave too much weight to opinions that were never rooted in truth. You let outside noise shape your inner space. But pause for a moment. Who would you be if none of those voices mattered anymore? Who would you become if nothing could hurt you again because you took back the power over what enters your mind? Emotional freedom begins when you stop giving your peace away. When you stop asking, "Do they approve of me?" and start asking, "Do I approve of who I am right now?" It is the moment you see that other people's reactions are not signs of your worth, but reflections of their own minds. You are not here to carry them. You are here to return to yourself. Ask yourself gently, what opinions have I allowed to steer my life? What part of my identity has been shaped by fear of judgment? And what does true freedom feel like when I decide that my mind is my own? When you stop letting the world enter you, you rise above it. You respond less, you observe more, and you move through life with the quiet strength of someone who cannot be shaken. This is the gift of detachment, not escape, but mastery, not withdrawal, but freedom. Quick summary of the principles: release the grip before it breaks you. You only suffer when you hold on to what is already trying to leave. Detachment eases the emotional strain you create inside yourself. When you loosen the grip, peace becomes possible again. Stop paying emotional rent to others. People gain influence when you let them live in your mind for free. Detachment begins when you take back your mental space with purpose. Your peace grows stronger the moment you stop feeding unnecessary thoughts. Care less to see more clearly. Overcaring clouds your ability to see life as it is. When emotions settle, clarity comes naturally. Caring wisely replaces caring too much. Let life move. Instead of forcing it, remember that control brings exhaustion, not certainty. Peace comes when you stop trying to change what isn't yours. Flow allows life to work with you instead of against you. Detachment is returning to yourself. You lose yourself when you attach too deeply to others. Detachment brings you back to your center and your truth. Your strength grows when you stay rooted in yourself. Pain ends when identity releases its grip. Suffering comes from the stories you hold on to, not the events themselves. Letting go of false identity dissolves extra pain. Freedom rises when you stop defining yourself through wounds. Emotional distance brings inner mastery. Distance gives perspective that closeness cannot. Stepping back helps you understand people and situations with more clarity. This clarity becomes the base of emotional maturity. Stop trying to fix what isn't yours. You waste energy solving problems that were never yours to hold. Peace returns when you let go of burdens others placed on you. Learning what belongs to you is emotional freedom, the power of non-reaction. Reaction gives others influence over your inner world. Stillness makes you stronger than any outside disturbance. When you respond from calmness, you shift the situation itself. Your peace is your greatest currency. Every emotional struggle costs you a piece of your peace. Choose where you place your energy with care and clarity. Protecting your peace protects your life. Detach and let life come toward you. When you stop chasing, opportunities naturally move closer. Life aligns more smoothly when you stop forcing outcomes. Stillness creates space for what is meant to arrive. The unshakable mind cannot be hurt. When you stop caring about others' approval or opinions, you become untouchable. Your inner sanctuary becomes your strongest shield. True strength is the ability to stay steady in the middle of outer chaos. There comes a moment in every spiritual path when you finally see that nothing outside you was ever worth losing yourself for. People change, situations shift, outcomes rise and fall. But your inner world is yours alone to protect. When you let go of what you cannot control, you do not become cold, you become clear. You do not stop caring, you stop collapsing. This is the quiet turning point where your peace returns, your strength awakens, and the world can no longer shake you from within. Remember, the mind becomes powerful the moment it stops asking for what was never promised. As Zen wisdom teaches, the one who holds nothing inside cannot be robbed by the world. Let this teaching guide you into a new way of living, lighter, freer, and untouched by the noise of others. Carry one question with you today. What must I release so my peace can finally breathe again? Like and share this video, share your thoughts in the comment box, and subscribe to Buddha's Eternal Wisdom for more simple Buddhist insights on peaceful living.